rent. People say it like a dirty word, but it really shouldn't be, especially in today's economy. After watching parts 1 through 3 of Can You Afford to Buy a House, you may be worried that your dreams of home ownership are slowly slipping away, but it's not all bad. So brace yourself. I'm about to say something that you don't often hear from people in the financial world. Renting may actually be the smarter financial decision than buying. There, I said it. We're on the lookout for people who are renting and people who are owning. Do you rent or own?
I rent.
You rent?
We own a house.
You own a house?
Funny, we were just talking about that. Rent.
You rent?
I rent.
You rent?
Well, I'm living with my sister, so technically I rent.
And do you ever plan on buying a house?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
I do, but the Toronto market is crazy expensive.
Probably down in Toronto, outside of the city.
Where it's cheaper?
Yeah. Probably someday.
One day?
Probably within the next 5 years.
Great. Houses eat money. I'm sure if you own a house, you know that. You're financially on the hook for everything. All the renos, all the maintenance, and all those repairs, like if the roof leaks. And if you've bought a house that you can't afford, see episode 2, then you don't have any money left over to save for a rainy day, let alone long term. So when you've bought a house you can't afford, you run the risk of putting all those home maintenance costs onto credit cards and lines of credit, racking up debt, and not having any money saved up for retirement. How do you know when you're ready? Your down payment, you have at least 12.5 to 22.5% saved up. Your fixed monthly costs are going to be about 50 to 60% of your after-tax income. And lastly, your total debt service ratio is 40% or lower. Once all of these things are in place, then you can afford to buy a house. So here's my advice. Buying is obviously a great financial decision, but not if you can't afford it. So until that day comes, rent. Proudly rent. Just make sure that you take advantage of the fact that you don't have all these other costs and save the money. If you're renting, here are the 3 main rules that you need to follow to make sure that you're financially secure. 1, make sure that all of your monthly expenses are 50% of your after-tax income. No exceptions. 2, save 20% of your after-tax monthly income for long term. And 3, do not spiral into consumer debt. So to settle the great debate between renting versus owning, here's my own set of rules. The best idea is to buy a home, keep your fixed costs within 50 to 60%, and save 20% of your income. The worst idea is to rent with your fixed costs above 70% of your income and save nothing, obviously. But it's the middle ground that there's the great debate. And I think it's actually smarter to rent with your fixed costs at 50%, saving 20% of your income, than it is to buy a house you can't afford with fixed costs above 70 and save nothing. That brings us to the end of Can You Afford to Buy a House, our 4-part series. And let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the great debate? Renting versus owning. I'm Shannon Lee Simmons, and this is Money Awesomeness on Coral. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and definitely tune in next week for my next series, Personal Banking and Budgeting, for you as a couple and if you're self-employed. I'll see you next week.